really loving it here. Jeremy Freeland to Little, to that's Jeremy, it was Tanu who puts one hand up for Rush. Cower. Jeremy Little, it's coming back to Tanu. Probing for space. Wonderful pass to Little. And Walter Little, with only one boot on, scored the try.
Watch this. That is a reverse pass at its very best. Alami Uramia was involved 2 or 3 times. They were all involved. And that's a gifted little pass there from Junior Tonu. Just over the top. A dangerous pass, but got away with it. Found there at Rush. Oh, wonderful stuff.
He has to take the ball and touch it down to the ground.
Can anybody tell me what you just saw on the screen?
Rugby.
Rugby.
New Zealand All Black rugby.
Yeah, this was actually the 1994 game against France, and one of the cool things about this video was that reverse pass you saw in the beginning, where he took the ball, spun around, and threw it to someone who was actually about, I think it said 25 feet away from him, and that's a really impressive thing to do. You don't see that in normal rugby games. It's more of a very expert thing to do, so seeing as what we just saw, my presentation is how to throw a rugby ball. My name is Ariana Fuda. I have been practicing rugby since my junior year of high school, and I now have the privilege of playing on the women's rugby team here at Keene State. With this presentation, I am hoping to just teach you guys what I personally know about how to throw a rugby ball. But first, I'm going to teach you a little bit about the game, because as Americans, we really know little to nothing about the game of rugby. And so by teaching you a little bit of it, I'm hoping to then show you the process of throwing a rugby ball and then tell you a few of the different types of passes you will see in an actual rugby game. What is rugby? I found this cartoon and I think this is the perfect explanation of what the actual game is. It says, mutilate, mangle, crush, pound, slam, bash, plaster, and pulverize. That's rugby. Now go out there and have fun. Rugby is hard to explain to people because it's nothing like any other sport out there. You can compare it to football, but there's not that many comparisons about it. In football, a normal pass you see is when the quarterback has the ball, throws it straight forward. In rugby, if you were to throw it straight forward, you can't do it. It's illegal. So instead of throwing a ball straight forward, the only 2 options you have for throwing a ball, either horizontally, right next to you, or backwards. And that's where it's different from a lot of different sports. So just really quickly, how is rugby played? Rugby, according to Rugby for Dummies, in a typical game, there are 30 people on a field at a time, 15 from each team. There are 2 sections of each team, which is the scrum and the back line. The scrum's main purpose is for defensive reasons. When you watch a game, the scrum will be the first one out there. It's formed of 8 men from each team to form a diamond, which is actually that top picture up there, where they will bind together, push against each other, and the ball will be thrown in the middle of their feet, where actually in the top picture you see where the ref is. Right there, the ball is thrown in, and at that point, the scrum has to use their feet to kick the ball back, and that's how the game starts, and that's how the possession of the ball is won between either team. A try is what we call a touchdown, I guess. The thing that's different about it, like Professor McCarthy was saying before, we call it a touchdown because instead of football, when you can just run right through the end zone and you get the points, you actually physically have to take the ball and touch it down on the ground. If the ball is in the end zone but it hasn't touched the ground yet, it's still free game. So the other team still has the ability to get the ball out of the end zone to keep you from scoring any points. Again, the scrum is what starts off a game, and a ruck is what happens when someone is tackled. The back line is the last 7 people who are not in the scrum, and those consist of the faster people, and their main goal is for offensive reasons. They do aid in tackling a lot in defense, but they're the ones who you're going to see with the ball most of the time running to score points. When someone is tackled, a ruck, it's like another form of a scrum that's formed over the person who falls. That's basically to protect the ball, and it's for the offensive team to regain possession of the ball, or for the defensive team to gain possession of the ball from that. And that is actually the bottom picture shown on the screen, and you can actually tell that it kind of looks like a scrum, but it's filled with both the back line and scrums. So now that you know a little bit about the game of rugby, here's how to throw a ball. So according to Instructables.com, there are 5 different steps or techniques to throwing a ball. Hand placement, strong base, placing a spin on the ball, throwing to a specific target, and then finally releasing the ball. First off is hand placement. If you guys can't see my hands, you can stand up and see, but when you have your hands on the ball, of course, you're going to have your dominant hand, which for me is my right hand, and that's going to be placed on the bottom 2/3 of the ball, and my left hand is going to be placed on the top 2/3 of the ball. So see how it's not straight like this. It's going to be more at an angle like this. And that's because your left hand is going to be what's guiding the pass, and the right hand is going to be all the power is coming from the pass. A strong base is really important because, like in softball, when you're at bat and you're swinging, all the power is coming from your hips and your torso, and you're driving it in. It's the same thing with throwing a rugby ball. And so a strong base, keeping your feet planted, hip width apart, is going to be your best bet for getting a really powerful throw in. The only thing is that in a rugby game, it's hard to stop what you're doing, make sure your feet are planted, get your strong base, and then throw. So you have to make sure when practicing you're able to use the momentum of your running to aid in the power of your pass. Placing a spin on the ball, it's used mostly for accuracy, and it's going to help get the ball go through the air a lot quicker. And it's not really focused on with beginners because you want to be able to focus on passing the ball before you can really get the spin on it. And placing a spin on the ball is really easy. It comes naturally once you start learning how to actually throw the ball. And that's basically when you swing it, you rotate your hand, and it just puts a little spin on the ball. Throwing to a target, it's really going to depend where you throw it. Of course, distance is a big factor. If someone's a foot away from you, you're not going to swing the ball as far as you can and as hard as you can to that person. Of course, if they're farther away, then you'll probably have to swing more. Another thing is that when you're playing just a regular game of catch with someone with a rugby ball, you're probably just going to pass it forward just to practice swinging your arms. But in an actual game, you will only be throwing it behind you or horizontally. So for throwing to a target in a game, if you're throwing to someone behind you, most likely you're not going to be throwing at that specific person because they will be running onto the ball. So you're going to throw it in front of them so they can catch the ball while keeping the momentum of their running so they don't have to stop and then regain their speed. Finally, releasing the ball. Like I was saying with throwing with a target, it's really going to depend when you release the ball for the distance of your target away from you. There are 3 common types of passes. The one I actually just explained, it's just the basic pass. It's the first one you use. It's the most common, and that's this right here. As you can see in this picture, his player is only a few feet away from him. So it's just using a basic pass to throw it to his team member. A longer basic pass, it's just a basic pass, but there's more distance between 2 players, so that's when you add more speed and more force to the ball, and that's that picture over there. And finally, a pop pass. Pop pass is what you saw the second pass in the video, and it's basically when another player is running behind you and you don't have enough distance to fully extend your arms. The player behind you will yell pop, and you just pop it up, they catch it, they keep running. The main goal of this pass is if there is a gap in the defensive line, usually someone from the offensive line will run in, pop the pass, and be able to go through the gap.
Can you legally turn around and just hand it to them, like what we call a handoff in football?
No,
Has to be released from your hands and caught.
it does, yeah. I mean, most of the time a ref will catch you if you just hand it off. So that's why it just gives it the little momentum of going into the air, so it still is a legal pass. So quickly, also all of the 3 types of common passes I got those passes from Rugby Sidestep Central. And finally, just to go over everything, rugby, it's a really fun game. It's really popular in Europe and all around the world, except we as Americans don't know much about it. We don't know how to throw it because it's different from throwing any other ball in any other type of sport. So there are 5 different techniques for throwing a rugby ball. It's hand placement, strong base, placing a spin on the ball, throwing to a target, and then finally releasing the ball. And with those techniques, you can throw a basic pass, a longer pass, and then a pop pass. I hope you all have a better understanding about the sport. Hope maybe one of you will go out, pick up a rugby ball, have like a game of catch, or even join a team to learn more about it. My name is Ariana, and I hope you enjoyed. I will now be able to take any questions you may have.
Give her a hand.